The Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew, and in conjunction with scriptural stations of the cross. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, He took along Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to feel sorrow and distress. He advanced a little and fell prostrate in prayer, saying,
My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I will, but as you will.
When he returned to his disciples, he found them asleep. He said to Peter,
So you shall not watch with me for 1 hour. Watch and pray, that you may not enter into the test. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Then, while Jesus was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, accompanied by a crowd with swords and clubs, who had come from the chief priests, the scribes, and elders. His betrayer had arranged a signal with them, saying, He came and immediately went over to him and said, and he kissed him. At this, they laid hands on him and arrested him. Pilate begins to question Jesus. And when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he made no answer. Then Pilate said to him, but he did not answer him one word, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now, Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. One of the maids came over to him and said, but he denied it in front of everyone, saying,
I don't know what you're talking about.
As he went out to the gate, another girl saw him and said to those who were there. Again, he denied it with an oath.
I don't know the man.
A little later, the bystanders came over and said to Peter. At that, he began to curse and to swear.
I don't know the man.
And immediately a cock crowed. Then Peter remembered the word that Jesus had spoken. Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. He went out and began to weep bitterly. Now, on the occasion of the feast, the governor was accustomed to release to the crowd one prisoner whom they wished. And at that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had assembled, Pilate said to them,
Which one do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus called Christ?
for he knew it was out of envy that they had handed him over. While he was still seated on the bench, his wife sent him a message. Have nothing to do with that righteous man. I have suffered much in a dream today because of him. The chief priests and elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to destroy Jesus. The governor said in reply,
Which of the two do you want me to release to you?
they answered, Pilate said to them,
Then what shall I do with Jesus called Christ?
they all said. But he said,
Why? What evil has he done?
they only shouted the louder. When Pilate saw that he was not succeeding at all, but that a riot was breaking out, he took the water and washed his hands in the sight of the crowd, saying, Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus inside the praetorium and gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped off his clothes and threw a scarlet military cloak about him. Weaving a crown out of thorns, they placed it on his head and a reed in his right hand, and kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, they spat upon him and took the reed and kept striking him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the cloak, dressed him in his own clothes, and led him off to crucify him.
And as they were going out, they met a Cyrenian named Simon. This man they pressed into service to carry his cross. A large crowd of people followed Jesus, including many women who mourned and lamented him. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they gave Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he had tasted it, he refused to drink. And after they had crucified him, they divided his garments by casting lots. Then they sat down and kept watch over him there. And they placed over his head the written charge against him: "This is Jesus, King of the Jews." 2 revolutionaries were crucified with him, one on his right and the other on his left. Those passing by him reviled him, shaking their heads, saying,
"You who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself, be the Son of God, and come down from the cross."
Likewise, the chief priests with the scribes and elders mocked him and said,
He saved others, but he cannot save himself. So he is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and he will deliver him. He trusts in God. Let him deliver him now if he wants him. For he said, I am the Son of God.
The revolutionaries who were crucified with him also kept abusing him in the same way. Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple there whom he loved, he said to his mother,
Woman, behold your son.
Then he said to the disciple,
Behold your mother.
and from that hour the disciple took her into his home. From noon onward, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out in a loud voice,
Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani.
which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of the bystanders who heard it said,
This one is calling for Elijah.
Immediately, one of them ran to get a sponge, soaked it in wine, and putting it on a reed, gave it to him to drink. But the rest said,
Wait, let's see if Elijah comes to save him.
But Jesus cried out again in a loud voice and gave up his spirit.
Ha.
Please stand. And behold, the veil of the sanctuary was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth quaked, rocks were split, tombs were opened, and the bodies of many saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming forth from their tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. The centurion and the men with him who were keeping watch over Jesus feared greatly when they saw the earthquake and all that was happening, and they said,
Truly, this was the Son of God.
Please sit. There were many women there, looking on from a distance, who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself was a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be handed over. Taking the body, Joseph wrapped it in clean linen and laid it in his new tomb that he had hewn from the rock. Then he rolled a huge stone across the entrance to the tomb and departed. But Mary Magdalene and the other Mary remained sitting there, facing the tomb. The next day, the one following the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember that this impostor, while still alive, said, 'After 3 days, I will be raised up.' Give orders then that the grave be secured until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come and steal him and say to the people, 'He has been raised from the dead.' This last imposture would be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "The guard is yours. Go, secure it as best you can." So they went and secured the tomb by fixing a seal to the stone and setting the guard.